The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Written by L. Frank Baum. Performed by Ferris Sabiri. Chapter 1. The Cyclone. Dorothy lived on the great Kansas prairies with her Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small, for wood that was needed to build it had to be carried for many miles. There were 4 walls, a floor, and a roof, which made one room, and this room contained an old cooking stove, a cupboard for the dishes, a table, 3 or 4 chairs, and the beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner, and Dorothy had a little bed in another corner. There was no attic at all, but there was a cellar, little more than a small hole that was dug in the ground. This hole was called a cyclone cellar, where the family could go if a cyclone came. The cyclone cellar was reachable by a trap door in the middle of the floor. When Dorothy stood in the doorway of their home and looked around, she could see nothing but the great prairie on all sides. Not a tree or house could be seen in the flat country she was surrounded by. It was not a particularly pretty sight either. The sun had baked the land around her into a gray mass. Even the grass was not green, for the sun had burned the tips of the long blades until they were the same gray color as everything else. Once the house had been painted, but the sun had blistered the paint and the rains had washed it away, and now the house was as dull and gray as the rest of the prairie. When Aunt Em came to live on the prairie, she was a young, pretty wife. Sadly, the Kansas sun had changed her, too. It had taken the sparkle in her eyes away and left them a dull gray. It had taken the red from her cheeks and lips, and they were now gray also. Aunt Em was thin and never smiled any more. When Dorothy, who was an orphan, first came to her, Aunt Em had been so startled by the child's laughter that she would scream and press her hand to her chest whenever Dorothy's voice reached her ears. Aunt Em still looked at the little girl with wonder from time to time. Why was the girl laughing? Was there anything here to laugh at? No, would be Uncle Henry's answer, certainly. Uncle Henry never laughed. He worked hard from morning till night, and did not know what joy was. He was gray also, from his beard to his boots, and he looked stern and rarely spoke. It was Toto that made Dorothy laugh, and saved her from growing as gray as her surroundings. Toto was not gray. He was a little black dog with little black eyes that twinkled above his little nose. Toto played with Dorothy all day long, and they both loved each other dearly. Today, however, they were not playing. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked sternly at the sky, which was even grayer than usual. Dorothy stood in the doorway with Toto in her arms and looked at the sky too. Aunt Em was washing the dishes.